Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Athena, and today I am bringing you a video that is my personal top 5 tips for decorating. Now, take these tips with a grain of salt because I know everybody has a different decoration style and they want their valleys to look so much different from the next person. So these are just tips for my style of decorating and what I do. And hopefully these tips might help you either spark some inspiration or help you continue what you have already started to decorate. Now, my Forest of Valor isn't complete because I did reach the item limit. So I spent all morning completely cleaning up my valley in order to be able to do this video for you all. But as you can see, I did start to continue to decorate my forest, and this is what I start with. I start with pathing, and the reason why I do that is because it paths out what I want to decorate. So if we go into furniture mode, as you can see in the top right corner, I haven't hit the item limit, but that is because I went around my valley and picked up all the forageable items. And you can tell where I hit the item limit because that's where these rocks on the left-hand side end. So if you can see, I did start to kind of path out the rest of what I wanted my forest to be. And then once they raise the item limit, crossing my fingers, I will continue on with the path. So that way, it will kind of outline where most of my furniture and decorating is going to be done. Now, once I am done outlining the path, next I add some landscaping. I don't completely fill the spaces with bushes and trees and rocks and foliage because I do want to leave space for some furniture items. As you can see, I'll give this little nook as an example. I started off with these 3 trees and then added these 2 bushes. Once I did that, it left me space to add in the stool, the logs, the barrels, the sacks, the lamppost. And the reason why I don't completely fill the space up with foliage is because I do still want to be able to decorate with those smaller items as well. Now, if there's a bigger item that you want to use, I suggest placing the larger item first, and I'll use this gazebo as an example. I suggest adding the bigger item, then doing the pathing, because the bigger items kind of allow you to see where you want your pathing to go, and you want to make sure that you leave enough space in order to place those bigger items down. And that's why I have this little statue right here as well, is because this was a larger item. I didn't know how much space it was going to take, and I want to make sure that I'm doing my pathing around the larger items. And I'll even come over here as other examples as well. This statue is a huge item. It has a huge footprint. And then I didn't necessarily make a pathing around this item, but I did make a nice little seating area with bushes, and I just kind of made it a little circular area. And that's kind of what I'm talking about with the larger items. You can kind of play around whether you want pathing or if you want a place to just kind of sit down or a place for your valley members to walk around. But I do suggest adding a couple of those trees and bushes and foliage items just to kind of make the space feel natural, if that's the kind of look that you're going for. And then those smaller items you can put in afterwards. Now, my next tip is to clutter. And I know a lot of you might kind of freak out at that word because I know some folks like things to be very clean and cookie cutter. But if you were to walk around my valley, you'll see that I try to leave no space left without a decoration item in it. I'm just going to walk around a little bit just to give you an idea. This is my Forest of Valor, but I do put a lot of items down everywhere. And don't mind the mess, because things, as we all know, kind of just pop up here and there. But I make sure to make things look as cluttered as possible. But by doing that, it makes it look as natural as possible. In any of these given areas, it doesn't look overwhelming in my opinion. It looks cute and cozy and very cottagecore or very like camping core. None of this looks like it's misplaced. And again, that is only my opinion. You may have a different opinion. But the more furniture items you put down, the better. And I don't mean that in a way of putting it like willy-nilly anywhere. Make sure it still has a space and it makes sense in that space. But the more items you put down, in my opinion, the better it looks. Now, my next tip for decorating is crafting. Again, if we're walking around my valley, my Forest of Valor, you can see that I have a lot of these barrels, a lot of these wells, and these carts. Anything that looks like wooden, the trellises, this tool holder, tool shack, shed holder thing, the carts, the signposts, the lamp posts. Utilize crafting as much as possible. Because we all know Scrooge is stingy with the furniture items. You can absolutely craft items to make your space look super cute. And reusing those items doesn't matter. Because somehow in this game, it doesn't look like you're overusing items. Unless you're just putting them one by one by one by one by one. Like I said, kind of methodically put them around your valley. And it's gonna look like they belong there. Oh, I can't move past Moana. Please, I just wanna walk on my path. But I do utilize a lot of the barrels, a lot of the crates, a lot of the sacks. And again, it looks like all of this is natural. But again, utilizing crafting is really important because these are items that you can use over and over and over again and not have to worry about whether or not Scrooge is going to have them in his shop. Now, the last suggestion or tip that I have is to fill in all of the empty spots that you have with foliage. Now, I did state earlier to start off by putting a few trees here and there. But once you place those trees and once you place those bushes, fill in those extra spots with as much furniture as you can. But then after that, I like to use these ferns and additional bushes and bracken and all of those other foliage items, like the rocks that have tree stumps on them or the larger rocks. And I like to use those to fill in all of the extra spaces that the furniture items did not take up. And the reason I like doing that is so things like this tree stump or these sticks or flowers, those cannot spawn if you fill in all of the space with extra foliage items. Now, it doesn't always work, especially with some of the areas that you are trying to decorate. For example, the front yard of Mickey's house. I'm actually going to come out of furniture mode and walk over to Mickey's house because you'll see that there is a lot of open space in that area. And I didn't want to fill in his front yard with a ton of foliage and bushes and more trees because I wanted it to feel like an actual front yard. So that doesn't always work, but in spaces where I'm just kind of trying to fill in as much as possible and take up space so that things don't spawn or respawn, that is definitely what I do. As you can see, the ferns or these little purple flowers or the rocks or the tree stumps, all of these items are specifically just so other items cannot spawn in those areas. And that is my last tip for decorating. But really quick, friends, just so I can show you, all of the foliage and rocks and underbrush that I use are literally in the landscaping tab of the furniture mode. So underbrush, trees, and rocks. This is what I use to fill in all of those spaces. So I use the biome specific bushes for whatever biome I'm working on at the time. I actually used Sunlit Plateau bushes for the Forest of Valor because I thought the pop of red really stood out and I loved how it looked. But then I also used a lot of the tree aspects. I used a lot of these tree stumps and the tree trunks and the fallen trunks because they take up smaller amounts of space that furniture items can't necessarily take up unless you're using like the miscellaneous furniture that will only take up 1 square. But I did use trees specific to the biomes. But you can kind of just play around with the trees and see which ones you like, which ones you don't like. And then I also played around with a lot of different rocks. The bigger rocks definitely help take up more space when you're trying to fill in areas. And I suggest using those if you're kind of trying to get the same feel as what I did for my Forest of Valor. That's it, friends. I hope you enjoyed. And if this helped you at all, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure to let me know what kinds of videos that y'all want to see in the future. But if you do want to watch some live stream playing of Disney Dreamlight Valley, head over to twitch.tv/AthenaBean, and I hope to see you soon. Have a good one, guys.